Hi there, my name is Alexis Fougere, and the topic of my Life of Mammals project was aardvark feeding habits and lifestyle. So, firstly, I'd like to give a little overview of what's going to be discussed during this presentation. So, first, I'm going to introduce the two species that are being discussed, and then for the aardvark, I'm going to talk about some of its main characteristics, talk about some of its adaptations for feeding and its nocturnal lifestyle, touch on its conservation status, and then I'm going to do a comparison between the tongue structure of aardvarks and the tongue structure of insect-eating anuran species. So these are the two species that are going to be discussed during this presentation. On the left is the aardvark, whose scientific name is Orycteropus afer, and on the right is just your generic frog, who come from the family Anura. And these are the two species that are going to be compared and contrasted later in this presentation, due to the similarities and differences in their tongues. So why did I decide to compare the tongue of the aardvark to the tongue of Anura? Well, originally I was going to compare Anura to a specific group of insect-eating birds, but there was not a lot of information on the topic. When I was looking for something else, I realized that since Anura and aardvarks eat a similar diet of insects, their tongues must be adapted in a similar way that would make them allowed to eat these insects. While there's quite a few similarities, there was also quite a few differences, which made for a very interesting compare and contrast. So, what are some of the main characteristics of aardvarks? Aardvarks are a medium-sized mammal that can weigh up to 65 kilograms and be 2.2 meters in length. They live in underground burrows in Africa, and they are a nocturnal species. They have strong forelimbs, enhanced claws, and a strong muscular tail that are used to destroy the termite mounds where they access their food from and are used to help construct their underground burrows. They also have a pig like snout, which is used to also help find their food. Their diet consists of ants and termites for the most part, and because of this, they have reduced teeth with a long and muscular tongue that is used to help grasp their food. So, where is the aardvark found? In the wild, aardvarks are only found in Africa, specifically in Central and Southern Africa, but in captivity they can be found all over the world. On this map, the areas where aardvarks can be found naturally are indicated by yellow. So, what are some feeding adaptations that aardvarks have? Aardvarks have a myromegaphagous diet, which means their diet consists primarily of insects such as ants and termites. Because of this, they have adapted a few mechanisms to make accessing their food easier. They have an elongated snout with a pig like nose in order to sniff out the termites, which is needed because they are a nocturnal species, so they do not rely on light to be able to find their food. They have a long, muscular, vermiform tongue that is used to scoop up termites, and this is so that they can stick their tongues into the mounds and get as many termites out as possible. They have homodont dentition, which is not typically seen in mammals, because since their food is so small, like ants and termites, they don't require the canines and the incisors that are typically seen in heterodont dentition. They just need to be able to crush up their food. They have enhanced front claws, which are used to destroy the termite mounds. And they also have a longer than average cecum, which is not typically seen in mammals, because typically mammals have a shorter cecum because they don't need to be able to digest plants. But one of the theories for why they have this enlarged cecum is so that they can digest the exoskeletons of some of the insects they consume. So these are just a couple images that show some of the skull and jaw adaptations had by aardvarks. So on the left, you can see an image of their skull. You can see that their nose is rather long, and that's to be able to stick their nose into the termite mounds. And on the right, you can see their long tongue. So as you can see, there are termites crawling up the tongue of that aardvark, and that tongue is also extremely long to be able to stick inside the mounds and get out as many termites as possible so they can get as much food as possible in a short amount of time. So these are just a couple images that can show some of the toe and claw adaptations that aardvarks have. So in the image on the left, you can see that they have rather long toes with very thick claws at the end of them, which are used to destroy the termite mounds, which are seen on the right. The termite mounds are often very well developed, and because of this, they're hard to get into. So these thick claws help the aardvarks to be able to break into the termite mounds to access their food. So now I'm going to talk about a few adaptations that aardvarks have in order to sustain their nocturnal lifestyle. Due to the high temperatures of the savannas where they reside, aardvarks live a primarily nocturnal lifestyle. They spend their days in underground burrows they dig out with their enhanced front claws in order to be sheltered from the extreme sun and extreme temperatures. Their enlarged ears and highly developed sense of smell allow for them to seek out termite mounds in the night without needing to see. Obviously, there's no lights, they require our other senses to be able to find their food and keep predators away. Their eyesight is also reduced due to not needing to see in their underground burrows and not needing to see at night. Their eyes only contain cones and not rods, and the rods are what is typically used to be able to see light. So now I'm going to do a comparison with the Anuran tongue. Members of order Anura, or your frogs, have tongues that are comparable to those of aardvarks but have some differences. The tongues of anurans are protrusible, meaning they can be launched out of their tongue in order to get prey from a distance. They're also long and sticky, which allows them to quickly grasp flying prey. The tongues of aardvarks are a bit different. They're not protrusible and they're not sticky. Rather, they're actually rather muscular, and they're lined with papillae that allow them to grip the termites and pull them out of the mounds. This is because their prey is not necessarily moving and flying, as anura typically go for flying insects, whereas aardvarks go for terrestrial insects such as ants and termites. They don't need to be able to stick to them as well, which is why they have the papillae in order to grip them and scoop them towards their mouth. Their tongue is not as long as those in anurans, but they are significantly more muscular, as they are required to go inside of the termite mounds to be able to access their food. This is an up close comparison of the tongue structure of the aardvark, which is on top, and the anura, which is in the bottom. On top, the aardvark tongue, you can see, is lined with these little tiny grooves, and those are the papillae that allow the aardvarks to be able to grip the termites with their tongue. As you can see, it's also significantly larger, thicker, and more muscular. On the bottom is the anuran tongue. It has the same sort of general shape, except it has a tongue pad, which is what is sticky and allows the frogs to be able to grab their food from a distance. It also has a more strong mandibular muscle, which is what allows them to be able to protrude their tongue and access their prey. Lastly, the conservation status of aardvarks. At this time, aardvarks are considered a species of least concern when it comes to conservation status, meaning there is no imminent threat to their species or their habitat. As time progresses, though, they may become increasingly endangered by things such as climate change, which would affect their habitat, or human poaching, where they are hunted for their claws and fur. So, as a bit of a final summary, aardvarks are a very fascinating species found in the African savanna that have some very unique adaptations to be able to live their unique lifestyle. They have specially developed tongue that allows for them to eat termites and be able to access them from their hard to reach environment. They also have very developed front claws to also help them access their food. They're also a nocturnal species that is a special adaptation that helps them to be able to live in the harsh environments and the hot temperatures of the desert. Because of this, they have reduced vision and enhanced senses of smell and scent and hearing to be able to help them to adapt to their nocturnal lifestyle. Overall, I very much enjoyed learning about this animal, and I think it is a very interesting animal altogether, and is not often an animal that people typically think of when they think of animals with unique traits. That's all. Thanks for listening, and have a great day.